What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. And today we have a short slate. It is Friday, January the 16th. Only a couple games on deck. But before we get started, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like on the video. Those two things help a small channel like this immensely. It gets us in front of new viewers and really just helps us keep doing this in the long run. So thank you if you've done that. During these game breakdowns, we will discuss sides and totals. So if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But without further ado, let's get into this. Couple good games up top. By far the best game of the day. Baylor takes on Kansas. Kansas is a 7.5-point favorite. The total in the game is 155.5. I did take an over 154.5. I think this number is just fine. And a lot of this just stems from offensive efficiency and the boost that Darren Peterson has provided. First of all, with Baylor, Dan Skillings missed their last game. Not sure on his status today. Kansas has a much cleaner bill of health now that Peterson is back. But to get here, Baylor is 11-5, lost to number 18 St. John's, number 90 Memphis on the road, number 52 TCU, number 3 Iowa State at home, and 7 Houston. They only have 2 top 50 wins against the actual number 50 team, Washington, and number 46, San Diego State. Baylor's played a tough schedule. It's ranked 30th, but overall, the strength of their victories and their strength of record is a little bit questionable here. Right now, Baylor's coming in number 40 in the country, and for all of these rankings, we are using KenPom. AP is great for what it is. It's just not as accurate, which is why we choose to use an analytics site. If you have problems with that, I still get it. So Kansas, they're number 17, which is a bit surprising considering they're 12-5. They have a few losses that are a bit questionable, and most of those are recent. In the last month, losses to 44 UCF by 6 points on the road, and then a loss by 11 to West Virginia, who's number 65, also on the road. But then they right the ship with a marquee win over Iowa State in an absolute bloodbath. They win by 21 at home. So this team has kind of been all over the board. Their other good wins are against NC State and Tennessee, a pair of top 25 teams. Their other losses are all pretty respectable: North Carolina, Duke, and UConn. So as far as stylistics go, Baylor plays a really short lineup. They're 289th in effective height, 49th in rebounding, which is surprising it's even that high. Kansas is 53rd in effective height, 93rd in rebounding. But the one thing, like, Baylor's only real skill rebounding comes on the offensive glass. And Kansas is pretty good at neutralizing that. So this could be an issue for Baylor right off the bat. The height thing, it's been a problem for them in a lot of matchups. It's probably going to be an issue here. But that kind of stresses the importance of Flory Badunga. When you look at Kansas defensively, this team is 12th overall. They're 27th in interior defense. They're actually 8th on the perimeter. But when you look at rim protection and rebounding, especially in this game, like protecting the offensive glass, how you do defensive rebounding, these are basically Flory Badunga stats. He's an excellent rim protector. He's the best rebounder on the team. It's not particularly close. If there's like foul trouble or anything, that could be an issue for Kansas. But as long as Flory Badunga stays on the floor, there's going to be a lot of mismatches for Kansas on the defensive end. And part of that is just a lot of Baylor shooting is coming straight from Cameron Carr. He's at 42% from 3. Obi Agbim is at 40%. But outside of that, this Baylor team is pretty middle of the pack in terms of Power 5 teams and how they shoot. They're 58th in effective field goal, 83rd in two-point percent, 45th from 3. They shoot more mid-range shots than they should, honestly. And part of the reason they've gotten away with that at times is they're good on the glass. But again, Kansas, as long as Badunga's on the floor, should neutralize a lot of that. When Kansas has the ball, 83rd in effective field goal percentage, 113th inside, 59th from 3. All of those are getting better with Darren Peterson back. He's a 40% three-point shooter, which helps because they were really just relying on Trey White before at 45%. Melvin Council, he sits at 36%, but basically his stats were boosted by that one game where he made like 9 3-pointers. Outside of that, Melvin Council's been a career pretty mid three-point shooter, to put it kindly. But I mean, this Baylor defense is horrible at rebounding, especially on the defensive end. The only reason they're as high as they are is offensive boards, and they're pretty susceptible in transition. They don't have a single defender in the top 50 of the Big 12. They're 145th in total defense, 51st inside, and 153rd on the perimeter. This is kind of, Kansas can do what they want, it seems like, offensively against this Baylor defense that's been completely non-existent. In the periphery, neither team really turns the ball over much. Baylor does generate more fouls, but that shouldn't be much of a problem. Kansas is only 20th in fouls committed. Neither team uses their bench a lot. I think that kind of just benefits Kansas more than Baylor because their starters are better. Tempo-wise, Baylor's 147th. Kansas is 174th. Both teams have played slightly faster since they've gotten into more competitive games and in conference play, which makes sense. You play some cupcakes and bye games. You don't need to play as fast. That's how we get to the over 154.5, the current number 155. To sum it up, both teams are playing faster. Kansas especially is playing with more efficient offense with Peterson back. Baylor's defense is non-existent, and Kansas is around middle of the pack, and Baylor can probably do enough to get this over the total. Next up, Creighton takes on Providence. Creighton is a 1.5-point favorite in a game with a 163 total. Part of this is we don't know the status of Jason Edwards. He missed their Tuesday game, I believe, or Wednesday. Doesn't matter. He missed their game earlier this week with plantar fasciitis. Basically, leaves us in a holding pattern. When does he feel good enough to play? We don't know. It is more a pain tolerance thing. It's probably not going to get better before the end of the season. Creighton is 53rd in the country, 11-7, 4 losses in the top 20. They played a tough schedule. They were out at Players Era. A couple questionable losses. They did drop a game to Baylor out there, lost to number 82 Kansas State. In Seton Hall, they lost by 2 points in a very close game. Their best wins are over Butler, who's 68, and then number 26, Villanova. That Villanova win is doing a lot of work because Villanova is 26, and that game was on the road. They did just go to overtime against 107 Georgetown on Tuesday, which isn't a good look, but overall, Creighton has played the 13th most difficult schedule. Number 68, Providence, is 8-9. A lot of questionable losses for them. Losses outside the top 50 to Virginia Tech, Colorado, Butler in double overtime, Xavier at number 93. They only have one top 100 win, but it's a good one. They did beat St. John's, who's number 18 right now. That was 77-71 on the road. Now, Providence has played the 16th most difficult schedule, so you can kind of excuse away some of this, but they're still 8-9 with a lot of work to do. Creighton is 102nd in effective height, 134th in rebounding. Providence is smaller. They are 217th in height, 159th in rebounding. Neither team is aggressive on the glass offensively. This all comes from defensive rebounding. So let's start with Creighton, a team that is really high in bench minutes, but it's not because they play a deep bench. It's because they can't figure out their rotation. 56th in effective field goal percentage, 37 in 2-point percent, 129th in 3-point percent. Things have just gotten off the rails for Creighton right away. Jackson McAndrew gets hurt. Addo and Freeman, and I'm sure he's making a fair amount of money, but he's playing like 6 minutes a game. So two of your presumed contributors are both not playing for one reason or another. One due to injury, one due to talent. But Creighton's going to shoot a ton of threes. They're 22nd in 3-point rate. One thing they've done is moved Austin Schwartz into more minutes. He has been hitting 42% of his threes, which has been a big help. Isaac Trout is also playing more minutes. He's kind of a big, weird, stiff defender, but for whatever reason, he's good at shooting threes, 36% there. Nick Graves, he struggled. He's at 30%. Josh Dix, he struggled. He's at 34%. Dix is a 40% career three-point shooter, so perhaps this could positively regress for Dix. But Creighton's going to try to play in transition. Providence is vulnerable there. Providence is slow in pace, kind of, so well, not really, but defensively, Providence will try to stop this, but they're kind of vulnerable. Anyway, you can score against Providence's defense with the style Creighton plays with. Providence is 203rd in total defense, 43rd inside, 340th from three. They have good rim protection, but that's about it. Can beat this team in transition. You can shoot threes over them. That's Creighton basically to a T. Providence, 50th in effective field goal percentage, 52nd in 2-point percent, 96th in 3-point percent. They are about middle of the pack in 3-point rate. Their best shooters are Corey Floyd and Jalen Sellers, both at 39% or better. Jason Edwards is decent too at 35.5%, as long as he's on the floor, which he's questionable here. Creighton, they're not going to let you play in transition very often with their pace defensively, which is kind of what Providence wants to do with their pace. But Creighton still has defensive weaknesses. They're especially vulnerable on the glass. That's not really a strength of Providence's. Creighton overall is 73rd in total defense, 66th inside, 185th from three. Again, not the best three-point shooting team as Providence. Most of their offense is flowing just strictly through Sellers. But even with, like if Edwards doesn't play, he's their primary ball handler. So Creighton kind of shuts the water off everything that Providence wants to do. Not going to allow transition. Creighton can be beat on the glass. Providence can't do that. So it's kind of a bad matchup for Providence across the board. In the periphery, neither team forces turnovers. Neither team really fouls that much. There's not much to be said here other than Creighton's changing a rotation. Creighton is 271st in tempo. That's just speaking to them limiting transition points. They're going to slow it down if they can, place them in the half court. Providence is 17th in tempo. They try to play fast. I'm not sure they'll be able to here. This is a tough one. I lean Providence plus the 1.5. This is contingent on Edwards playing. If he's out, erase this. It would be, I'm not going to bet this either way, but this is certainly dependent on Edwards being out there. We just don't have that information right now, making this a tricky game to play, but that is where we stand. If you're interested in a total, we show some value towards the over. We make this 164.5. With Creighton's pace, I could see being a little weary, but overall their efficiency should make up for that. Marquette takes on DePaul. What a season for Marquette, man. DePaul's a 4-point favorite at home, 144 total in this game. This is a rough spot. So to get here, the one redeeming thing you can say about Marquette is they played a tough schedule. It's the 17th most difficult schedule, but they're 6-12. They've lost to teams outside the top 100 in Maryland and Georgetown. They have one top 100 win over 93 Xavier. They went to OT against Valparaiso. I mean, I just don't really know what to say about Marquette, man. This is a rough season for them. It's not getting any better. Ben Gold is hurt. We don't know if he's going to play. Let's go to DePaul. They're 109th. About what we expect for a DePaul team. They're 10-7. Their questionable losses have come to Buffalo, who is 182. And then Northwestern's probably the next worst loss, which is not bad. They only have one top 100 win, which is also against number 93 Xavier. So both teams have that kind of in common as Xavier opponent, but Marquette won, DePaul won. DePaul's was by a larger margin, if you want to say that. DePaul's played the 147th ranked schedule, but they also have better wins. Like they have 2 wins just outside the top 100 in Georgetown and Wichita State. Just a tough body of work for both teams, but DePaul's is a little better, shockingly, as long as you can get around it being a pretty weak schedule overall. Marquette is 59th in height, 226th in rebounding. Losing Ben Gold is going to hurt these numbers. Again, we don't know if he plays. DePaul is 107th in height, 219th in rebounding. Marquette is better on the offensive glass, but neither team is good defensively here. So perhaps an advantage for Marquette in that area. And shooting-wise, this Marquette team is 314th in effective field goal percentage. I'll say it again, 314th. They're 280th in two-point percentage. They are 321st in three-point percent. They're 144th in three-point rate, so they're taking a fair amount of them. And it's honestly gotten a little better now that Nigel James is fully integrated into the offense. He's at least hitting 38%. But Chase Ross and Ben Gold are shooting below 27% from three. 27%. Marquette basically is only scoring through transition or perimeter cutting. DePaul limits both. DePaul is 37th in total defense. This is not a bad defensive team. The perception of DePaul might be bad, but this team can defend a little bit. 17th on the interior, 167th from three. That's a weakness, but okay, Marquette can't hit a three to save their lives, so it doesn't even matter. I don't know how Marquette scores. I really don't. DePaul, they're 183rd in effective field goal percentage, and I never thought that would be a massive advantage, but it is over Marquette. Marquette, 314th to DePaul's 183. That's a pretty sizable gap. Inside, DePaul is 183rd in two-point percent, 203rd in three-point percent. They don't shoot a ton of threes. When they do, Caleb Banks is their best at 38%. RJ Smith is decent at 37%. But, Banks is a pretty sizable guy. He actually provides some floor spacing for your offense. And then NJ Benson is their best scorer inside, which is a problem for Marquette. Marquette is awful inside. They're 194th in interior defense. Not that they're much better on the perimeter, 175th. But it's basically a Chase Ross-led team. He's the only good defender that's going to be out there. If you do want to look for an edge for Marquette, DePaul is 228th in turnovers committed. Marquette, they've dropped compared to what we've known historically, but they're still 66th in turnovers forced. This could be an area where DePaul struggles. Fouls don't really project to play a major role in this game. Both teams are outside the top 250 in free throw percentage anyway. Tempo, Marquette is 54th. They still try to use that havoc-creating system. DePaul is 188th. They'll try to avoid transition play with Marquette, which is the only way Marquette really can score outside of turnovers. So, honestly, I lean DePaul -4. I don't know if I'm going to play this with a strength of schedule discrepancy, but we currently make this -4.3 in favor of DePaul, so a tiny bit of value there. I could see wanting to play an under. The current number is a little scary to me, but we have this at 141.5. I'm not sure if I'll get there, but that's where we lean in the game. It's not my favorite game on the board with the volatility in two bad schools. Finishing up in the MAC with Ohio taking on Ball State. Under 147 is going to be a play for me. Just want to be transparent first and foremost. This is moving up. I have not placed the wager yet because I think a 148 might pop, and I don't know where it's going to stop. We showed value back when this was 146, but decided to treat it patiently with some money coming in on the over. But we'll explain why. Just know that this will be a play later in the day at 147.5 at worst. Maybe the line will move in our favor. A lot of injuries in this game. Ohio's Elijah Elliott's missed their last 3 games. Ball State's Jawan Maxey and Caden Fish have missed their last 5. Most of these are rotational players, but Fish is the best defender for Ball State. Ohio is 201st in the country. They're 10-8, 4-2 in the MAC. They really just have one bad loss to Bethune-Cookman, who's 262. None of their other losses are ranked lower than 157 Toledo. And they do have a top 100 win against number 98 Illinois State. The strength of schedule is 163rd. Ball State's been a disaster. They're 320th, 4-13 overall. They have 2 Division II wins, and then their only 2 wins are against Lemoyne and Louisiana, who's 327. They have losses to Little Rock, Lafayette, and Evansville. All of those teams are outside the top 270, and the overall schedule for this team is 238th. Ohio is 279th in effective height, but Ball State's 329th. Ohio's 253rd in rebounding, but Ball State is 335th. Basically, that's kind of the story of this game. Ohio is 159th in effective field goal percentage, but Ball State is 329th. Defensively, Ball State is 273rd. It's probably their best strength, I guess, but Ohio's 229th. Really, everything in this game favors Ohio just by a slight margin. Turnovers forced. Ohio is actually a team that can turn the ball over at times. They're 216th in turnovers committed. Ball State is 70th in turnovers forced. If you want to look for a path there, that's probably it. But that is literally it. As far as the total in this game and why we lean in under, Ohio is 94th in tempo. Ball State is 335th. So they're going to slow this game down. And then you're not really expecting much efficiency from Ball State offensively. So to get this over, we need Ohio to play fast against a team that's trying to slow you down, play with more efficiency than probably expected because Ball State's not going to do anything. I don't know. It's just hard for me to get there on an over in this game, especially when you go and look at the math on the back end mathematically. We have this total currently at 144.7. So we were showing some value right away when it opened at 146. Now it's jumped up 1.5 points. This is one that is going to be on the card, just going to wait till a little later in the day. But that'll do it for us today. Big slate tomorrow. I hope to have that video out early so you can digest it. But if you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, until next time, good luck, everyone. We will see you later.